sir. I appreciate it. I'd like to call the order of the Hopkinton Building Committee meeting at 4:34 p.m. on May 11th, 2021. Today we are joined with myself, I'm Norm Gupel, with Bill Hickey, Michelle Clark, Chris Kelly, Rob Nato, Gordon Bristol, Jay Burgess, Doug Proctor, and Barry is here with us. Today we are meeting remotely, which is allowed under the governor's executive emergency order, which allows us to record and take minutes and upload it once they've been approved for the community to read and go through. This meeting was properly notified to the community in advance and is not being held in person, it is being held remotely. So there's my statement. It's great to see all of you. It's been a while since we've met, so we probably have a little bit to go.
Norm, we lost your volume.
August of the April 6th meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Who was
Okay.
that? Sorry, who seconded?
That was me, Michelle. Rob.
Oh, thank you, Rob. I'm just trying to take minutes. I'm not used to taking minute part.
I think Dash, my dog, seconded for a second there, Rob. So since this is remote, we have to do the motion by roll call. So I will go through the lineup. Michelle Clark,
Michelle Clark, yes.
Chris Kelly,
Chris Kelly, yes.
Rob Nato,
Rob Nato, yes.
and Jay Burgess.
Jay Burgess, yes.
And Norm Gupel is a yes. Motion carries for the minutes to be approved. Thank you guys for that. Next on our agenda is to discuss quite a few things. We're going to discuss updates from the project and a couple other things moving forward. So I am going to just turn over to Barry to start to give us an update from our last meeting of April 6th, where we are in the project and what's changed and what's going through. They're on mute. Not working?
Harry, we see you. Can you say anything? No?
Looks like he just dropped out.
Yeah, give him a second.
It may be on Zoom's end because I ran like 6 different interviews today, all through Zoom, and every one of them was having these little audio glitches.
It was weird. I hit the mute button at the same time Norm cut out. So I was like, how did that happen?
Give him a second to log back on. If he's not on like the next 3 minutes, then we'll kind of do it backwards and we'll go with Gordon and kind of feed through there with a couple things. So while we'll wait for him, Doug, just so the community can be more informed, I want you to discuss a little bit of, just real quick, what we plan on doing with the color coordinated chart for the roofing. As we discussed in our management meeting, we discussed the leak that was not part of the facilities project. And
Right. So I'll just share screen here real quick. Let's see. So real quick, the school requested a diagram that shows all 3 schools, what roofs were done in this project and the other areas that are remaining. So we have all 3 schools here. The green indicates roofs being worked on in this project, and then the orange indicates areas that are not under this project, but some of the areas are still under warranty based on a roof report that we got from Melanson from 2017. So this is Harold Martin School. The only area that's remaining is basically the 1987 main portion. This is the 1950s wing, as we call it. This is the preschool. This is the addition. And then this is the gymnasium and CAF. And it's that main 87 classroom area wasn't done in this project, but it was done in 14 and is under warranty till 2034, we believe. And Maple Street, the green areas again are the areas that were just installed last year. The orange areas at this school, we don't really have documentation on these areas. And I don't know if that's something that Michelle can find somehow. I know that we looked for it during construction and weren't able to determine it. But we did have Eastern Exterior come out and look at it prior to the construction, and they thought that the roof was serviceable. Meaning it's still in okay shape, but again, we don't have an age on that. At the high school, the green areas again show what was installed. That all the metal roof was removed from these areas and replaced with EPDM. The only metal roof remaining, I believe, is on the rotunda here. And this area was installed in 2020. This was installed last summer, and this winter, the metal roof areas were taken care of. And these orange areas remaining were installed in 2004, and the Melanson report notes that it should be good with maintenance till about 2027. They were kind of vague in that description. So I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Does anyone have any questions for Doug? Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it probably needs to be finalized down the road and given to the board, but just to give the community and, a point of reference to what we've been doing on this project, to be assured that, we're following through what's been promised, and to really pinpoint what's been done and what has not been done. So I really appreciate the work you put into that. So thank you, Doug, very much. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Barry. Welcome back, to give us an update since our last meeting of April 6th on what's been going on, and just to update us from then.
Okay, terrific. We'll see how long I stay online. Well, with that said, let's go over the schools. At Maple Street, they've been working on getting the new fire alarm up and running, and that has been switched over to the new panel and devices. So that has taken place since we last spoke. At the high school, we had some in the locker rooms. In the girls' locker room, the ceiling tile has been replaced. In the boys' locker room, the ceiling tile and the grid for the tile has been replaced. The flooring in the training room, and that work has been completed. All that needs to be completed there is relocating the ice machine over to that new space, getting it out of the corridor. A little bit more carpeting was completed on the teacher's entrance. The walk-off mat has been continued through the old removable walk-off mat that had failed. That was a recessed one that has been removed, poured flush, and the walk-off mat has been carried all the way to the entrance of the building. Lion's share of the work has been, again, over at Harold Martin on the addition. The addition is coming along great. The masonry work has been completed, and the staging is being taken down starting on tomorrow. There was a little bit of washing going on and cleaning up this week. The interior, all the tile, 90% of the tile work is done. There's a little bit more in the entrance vestibule that's being worked on as we speak. All the millwork in the classroom is in, and the countertops and sinks, the millwork, and cabinets and countertops in the new admin offices is complete. And in the mailroom, fixtures in the restrooms have been hung. Epoxy floors are down. Carpeting and MCT tile in the classrooms is complete. Ceilings are in, permanent lighting is in, ceilings are being flooded. All that will remain for flooring is corridors. And that addition truly starts winding down. Train will be coming in, getting the mechanical equipment controls tied in and getting the mechanical equipment, HVAC up and running, ventilation, heating, air conditioning. You'll get that balanced and tested and ready for use. Next week or the week after, site guy will be remobilizing to get walkways prepped, loaming done, fine grading, seating in place, and start getting the exterior cleanup done. Also, I believe over the last 30 days, the LP propane tank underground has been installed and has been put in service. The gymnasium roof the ballast has been removed and it's been loaded for the new roofing material that will probably be beginning in about 1 or 2 weeks. And we'll start getting in earnest on the roofing at HMS. Behind the scenes, what has really been happening is gearing up for our summer push, which is not that far away. Millwork is cabinetry, lab casework, etc. is underway and or manufactured. Flooring material has all been released to make sure we have it in time. Movers, abatement contractors, demo contractors have all been lined up to get at the when you folks get out of school on the 22nd and 23rd. And we've been gearing up to get that process started for the summer push. I think that's it in a nutshell. Doug and Gordon certainly can weigh in on any of the items I might have missed.
So do you have any questions for Barry? Thank you very much for the update. Awesome. Lots going on, that's for sure. Gordon, I'm going to turn over to you to massage anything that maybe you want to elaborate on that's maybe Barry.
No, I'll be honest, Barry did a great job in what he
Okay.
did. So no additions.
Awesome. Perfect. That's great to hear. Does anyone have any questions regarding an update, what's going on?
A quick question for Barry. I know we've been talking about it all the way through, but do we have any concerns over lead times on any of the equipment that's due for the final phase, just stuff that we need? You mentioned the millwork, all that's coming along. Are there any mechanical elements that we've identified that might be dicey timeline-wise, Barry?
We've been chasing that down. The lion's share of it, and I've talked to NPI numerous times, is sitting in their warehouse in Manchester. Rooftop unit just came in last week in the curb for the gymnasium at the high school. So we now have that in hand. That was the only one that was keeping us awake at night. They have all their sinks, touchless devices have always been a concern, and they have those sitting, ordered those early enough. So to answer your question, Jay, I believe we're in very good shape and have dodged that bullet, for lack of a better word, and that stuff got ordered ahead of all the slowdowns we're seeing at this time. And the other hurdle, which Gordon's helped with a lot, is making sure, and Doug, choosing the flooring material and making sure we've been able to get our hands on and lock those materials down so we don't have a hiccup there on the flooring. We've checked with all 3 vendors. That's the one vendor that we have a different one on each school. And each one of those either has it or have been assured that the product will be in time for the summer push. So, that's all good news, but we have a watchful eye on anything that might trip us up. But I think we're in good shape, Jay.
Great. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry. I appreciate that. So we're going to discuss now a little bit about the update on the FFE as compared to the budget amount. So I'm not sure who wants to take lead on that, if it's Gordon or Michelle, just to kind of talk about the process a little bit and comparison to the bids that came in and what the next step is in order to get through with this.
I can start, but again, this is sort of a dual report from myself and Michelle, but she and I haven't vetted it with each other because our schedules and so forth, but it's really both of our efforts. So what we did is we met with all of the principals, and in many cases, along with faculty that report to those school principals, we came up with what their request was for what they needed at each of the 3 schools. We sent it out to bid to 3 places: WB Mason's, School Furnishings, and Creative. We've gotten bids back from all 3. Creative eliminated themselves by saying it's an all or nothing. We have to take their entire quote and buy everything lock, stock, and barrel from them, or they don't want to do anything. So we've eliminated them accordingly. So we're left with 2 good bids, WB Mason and School Furnishings. And I just noticed that I think I have sent it out to almost all of you, except for Barry and to Rob. Just a quick summation, my first cut at it. Again, Michelle and I will have to go over it again, but if we come up with the cut, we take high and low bids on each school. Our worst case scenario, we would be at $126,865 that we'd be spending. On our best case scenario, we'd be at $119,680 we'd be spending. And that gets us Maple Street School FF&E. That gets us the Maple Street School library shelving, which that's something that Michelle's still pondering whether that can go in under this project or not. That's about $4,200 of it. The fact of the way that they're moving some things around in the room, they have to reconfigure a couple of the shelvings. Harold Martin's office, the high school science area, the Harold Martin classrooms, and then finally the Harold Martin conference room. And it's worth just giving you a rough idea of what those, I'll sort of give a blended rate as to what those come to. Hopkinton's Maple Street School FF&E comes to $10,000. The library shelving is at $4,000. These are approximates. The Harold Martin office, remember, we're doing a nice entryway and office, and everything that you need for that comes in at around $16,000. The high school science area, we're reusing most of what they have, but the science area is a specialty area, and their needs come to around $35,000. The Harold Martin classrooms, this is 4 new classrooms, come to $46,000. And lastly, the conference room, which again is its own specialty, comes in at $5,000. So so far so good. And Michelle, I haven't let you chime in. Again, I'm doing this on bended knee with you. We haven't really vetted it with each other, but so far you follow that, and have you had a
Yeah,
chance?
absolutely. We haven't had a chance to both talk about it, but I do have the information. I plan on looking at it probably this weekend because this week is extremely busy.
Right.
To review it all, to make sure that we're doing things that actually were part of the scope and not additional items. That's the biggest part, just to
Right.
give people on the outside, that might be listening to this, a little bit of why it's not an easy cut and dry thing. It's because we don't want to, because we're going to be $16,000 short ish if we do the worst case scenario. But we have money in contingency we could use. But it's trying to weed that out because, boy, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to pay $16,000 for parking at Harold Martin if there's a few items that are above and beyond what was approved by the voters, as just an example. So I think that's about it.
Okay, so what we're looking to do here tonight would be to have you folks give us your nod of concurrence that so far so good. And then that lets Michelle and I get turned loose on 2 things. Number one, she'll look them over and make sure, again, as she just said, that we haven't included anything that shouldn't be part of the bonded amount. And then it allows us to go back to each of the vendors. And there's sort of a mix. On some things, WB Mason is better. On some things, School Furnishings is better. We would then talk with both places, and they may have some economy of scale that, gee, if you give us a little more, we can do this or we can do that. So without breaking any rules of the bidding process, it's certainly appropriate to go back for clarifications. And in some cases, for example, there was a major discrepancy in price between WB Mason and school furnishings on, and let's say a single item that's supposed to be $3,000, there might have been $1,000 error. Well, that's too far off. Something was mixed. So we'd go back and negotiate with them. So we're feeling comfortable that if you give us the go ahead today, the concurrence, that we get to a not to exceed number, we then can begin knocking these off and purchasing things. Again, the process would be that I would probably call each vendor and work with them and then report back to Michelle. She'd concur and then cut the purchase order, and we'd start ordering things. All the vendors tell us that if we start now, we're in fine shape. I would have a just-in-time delivery so that we're not stepping all over BPS. So we won't have things arriving tomorrow morning. We'd have things arrive, let's say around August 1st to 15th, we'd give them a window. And by then we'd begin receiving things and putting them right in position. All these prices include fully installed and taking away their rubbish. So we don't have to come up with any staff people to do things. So just to summate, if we use all the high bids, we're at 126,000. If we use all the low bids, we're at 119. I'm suggesting somewhere in the middle there, if you were to give a concurrence of, let's say, 120,000, and let us work at that, and then we report back to you next month and see how we're coming along. Now,
So
Michelle,
Gordon, I
go
don't
ahead.
think that that's the role of the committee. I think it's
Okay.
really, we have a budget amount and we just have to
Yeah.
weed it out because, and Norm and Rob can obviously
Nope.
have a different opinion, but because we have a budget amount, it's FF&E, it's really weeding it out. And I would hate for you to do any more work on it until I really look at it to make sure. You know, we'll give an example that someone wanted to have something else added that wasn't part of the scope. We don't want you to be working with a vendor on pricing, and I don't want to say wasting your time, but you know what I'm getting at, because we were going to not do that anyways.
Understood. No, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just not articulating it properly. So I would wait for you to say, okay, here it is, go for it and start doing the final talking. You will also have some input on that you may have a vendor that says, hey, if you buy some more stuff from me, I can give you a better quantity price. All that we'll take into account. I'm just sort of trying to get it behind us that we don't have to revisit this again, and that we can say, based on Michelle okaying, we're in the neighborhood. We're in a good neighborhood. This is where we think we'll be. That's all.
Yeah, so I think what's important is for us as the committee to know that you received the bids back. And what's good about, from my understanding, from a financial point of view, is that Michelle has to do her work, of course, which, Michelle, I've been on vacation. It takes me 2-3 weeks to get caught up for 1 week being out of work. Trust me. I know how it is in the financial field. And what I think is good, Gordon, is that as a committee, we know that it's come in about budget for what we did, which is good. And we know that we have maybe about 15,000 of contingency where we may have to dip into. But before we, I think, I agree with Michelle where you guys are going to have an ongoing conversation for the next 2 weeks and fine tuning this.
Yes.
She'll do her homework, and you guys will get together, and then she'll process the next steps moving forward. I think what's good for me to know for this is that there's no long lead times. That's my biggest thing in my job, is that everything that we're ordering for raw materials is 3 to 4 weeks, even with supplies. So
I think we're all saying things. Oh. Did we lose him?
I think we lost him.
Okay. Norm, you cut out for part of that, but I think we're all saying the same thing, different ways. There, now you're back.
okay, sorry.
I'm just going to also, Jay, you've been a good one pushing on all this. Are we meeting your expectations in particular? Because you've been sort of the backbone of the FFB.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Gordon. No, it looks good to me. I appreciate your summation. I think that hit it right on the head. I like the way you looked at breaking it up a little bit to accommodate the Hopkinton graduate. That's mileage that I think we'll get back when you actually get down into the details. Also like the quality level, you mentioned it was home. I think that's a good mid-level quality that I think will serve the district well. So, but I also understand where Michelle's coming from. We need to make sure that we don't allocate anything to the project that would be outside of the scope of that, particularly with us being over what we had budgeted. But like a lot of other things, the prices have gone up, and I think it sounds like you got a good plan to find the best value. So no, I'm great with everything you've got, and most of what my drum beating on the furniture had been is just lead time. It would, if we had a beautiful building that was impeccably done, as I know we will, but no furniture, that would be what people would remember. So thanks for staying on top of this and finding the best value for the district. It looks good.
And then the last thing, just, and this is more for Michelle's benefit, what it looks like if when we get all done, if I had to fast forward after you've had a chance to fully vet it, it looks like about 60% of the stuff might go to WB Mason, about 20% to school furnishings, and then 20% of our budget will go to what I call sole source vendors, and that's particularly on the high school science side. They have certain items that, because of their intricacies, it needs to come from global industries or something like that. But that's what it's, so we'll have a good spread around on the work, but a bulk of it going to WB Mason, who I know is a good vendor to us.
So once it's final, once Michelle does her job and it's finalized, in the meantime, I do want Rob to be able to see the bids come back. I think I want him to see what it looks like. So if we can put that in our folder that we have on Google Drive for him to see it, I want him to be able to see that too. So Michelle, I mean, you're clear. I understand exactly where you're coming from. So you guys will just continue to keep doing what you guys got to do, checking the boxes, and you know, I understand where you're coming from, what you need to do, and I understand Gordon's and Jay's concern, and we're all on the same page. We just have policies with the school districts that we need to continue to follow and cut no corners. But I'm excited to get them furnished. I just want to make sure we check all the boxes and do what we need to do. But again,
quick question, Norm, if I might, is there, Michelle, if you determine that the furniture that Gordon's proposing falls outside the scope of the project, do you have furniture capital money that you could look at using, or how would that work?
We really don't, because we usually have to cut all of our money for furnishings. So then what we do is we take the money from maintenance trust if the board approves it. So we've already done what was proposed for the 2021 budget that was cut. So we don't do the 21, 22. So these items wouldn't have been part of that process. So there'll be a little gap. And the issue becomes is that we already have a lot of things in the CIP that we need to do aside from more furnitures, that we're not at a horrific place about funding for it, but we're not at the ideal optimal place for funding for it. But it could be, if it's such a need by the principal, they can advocate if they have money in their budget somewhere else to Steve, and there could be opportunities for that.
Okay, that sounds similar to how we do it in Concord. Okay, I'm just curious on how that worked, because it sounds like Gordon struck a pretty good price, so it would be there may be enough value there that might be worth considering. But that's really, it's a moot point until you determine what's in and what's out. So thank you. That just answered a kind of an administrative question.
how good is the quote for, Gordon?
There's still live, many of them for a couple months. One of them's till the end of the year. So the quotes are still live. Yeah.
Okay.
It's more of we need them out from our desk so they get here, but no, the quotes are alive. Thank you for asking them. I'll send that stuff out to you directly that I have. Again, I never know exactly who to send everything to. So I think
Gordon, Norm asked to put it on the drive, so I'm in the process of adding those all to the drive, underneath an FF&E RFP folder. So Rob, just let me know if you can't see it, but honestly, everyone should be able to see it has access to these drives.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Gordon, did you touch on lead time?
Lead times, we're okay so far on lead times, yes.
Okay,
If we buy, we need to start in the next 2 weeks. Again, we'll have a chance by next week, this time, Michelle and I will have gathered and be ready to begin trickling the POs out the door.
Michelle, is that something that you're comfortable with? I know you're really busy with a lot of things. We've got a lot
Yeah,
coming
no,
forward.
yeah, it will have to be a weekend thing just because there's so many
Yeah.
things, yeah, as you know, never mind being out, yeah, so,
And-
yep.
And just to clarify that, so we don't give Michelle overburden, is some of the items are no brainers like chairs and desks. Those we can get behind us quickly. It'll be the the specialty items that will take us longer. So we'll go after this in increments, so we aren't trying to overburden.
That's great. So I appreciate the good questions, the good conversations. Rob, you have your mic off. Did you have a
Just a
comment?
quick, Michelle, how far over the budget are we for these items?
So if we use the worst case scenario by what Gordon, because honestly, I haven't looked at what Gordon gave me. I just printed it all out because I'm a person that has to have paper. Instead of having it in a document, like on a computer. So going by what Gordon said, if it is 126 worst case scenario, we're about $16,000 over.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But we have 40,000 in contingency, right, for this line item. So it could
So
come out of
right
that.
now we have available contingency for anything that, in our owner side, not the BPS side,
Okay.
is 43,621.94 that's not committed. And that is also on the financial statement. If people didn't get a chance to write it down or whatever, you can take a look at it. But yeah, that number's in there.
So back to what Jay had said about getting our bang for our buck. Who would deem that 15,000, let's say,
I think it would really be Steve is gonna, you're cut out again, Norm, but I mean, my gut would be Steve would be involved. It would obviously be you and Rob. I'm a bit concerned. We don't have a lot of money in contingency left. And anything can happen. Look at what happened we had more independent testing that we thought we were gonna do, and that's what drove down some of our contingency money. So I'm a little worried because I just still think that there are some other areas, honestly, safety, and I think of parking at Harold Martin. And so that's why it's just to make sure if we're over and it's what was approved in the scope, it is what it is, right? We have to just take it out of contingency.
yeah.
But in Steve's, in my opinion, if it's something, what else would you like kind of like a wishy item? We don't want the wishy items in here. That's not what this is about. It's not about wishies. It's about, what is needed and what was part of the scope. And maybe there's nothing, and maybe there's just a tiny bit that's part of that, wishy.
Yep.
But it's just trying to figure that out.
And I know that takes time. So I wish you luck on that. That sounds like a lot of.
Thanks.
It's like when I do my trial balance at the end of the year, having to go through every single one to make sure that it's correct. So you'll let us know when you get to that point. We'll go from there,
Absolutely.
and then this group, we'll decide on what you bring to us. So you do your job, you let us know, and in the meantime, that's going to take some time. I think what's important to me is that we can look at both scenarios and go from there, and making sure that we get the taxpayers what they want. If there's a vented for, hey, we want this, what can we do with the numbers, and go from there. I've said it over and over again since I've been on the building committee, the parking at Harold Martin, something I'm hoping that we can do in this project. And I think it'd be amazing if that was to happen. But there's some avenues, Michelle, we can look at, to do with getting those resourceable funds from this project, or maybe unreserved fund balance. I don't know. That's something that
Right.
Rob and Delsey can look at as a one-time expense. So there's many moving pieces there that we can do to get that going. So, I think.
Nope, lost him.
We know he's saying nice things. Now we lost Jay.
In charge.
Hand gestures give it away.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear you, but we know you were saying nice things. So,
This is why Zoom is all crazy for me. I don't know. Perfect. Are you guys still with me or am I still acting up?
You're
No, we can
fine.
hear you.
All right, perfect. Does anyone have any other questions regarding this? And it's in the folder for you to see, Rob, and Michelle will give a report, and Rob, you'll also see the report too, and make sure that we're all on the same page as a committee regarding that. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for the discussion on that. On the agenda is an update for summer work. I think we touched base a little bit on that, but I assume, didn't we discuss that, or is there more you want to add to that, Barry?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, behind the scenes, that's really where we've been working, is to make sure all the materials and subs are in place and on schedule for the very short summer push that we have. We've been fortunate to get a lot of that work pecked away at during breaks, some of them, let's say, natural with vacations, and some of them less fortunate due to the pandemic. But we've embraced those opportunities to get some work done. So that's helped make the summer load more manageable, the way we're looking at it. So we're looking forward to being a well-paced summer. So no, I think that's really it, Norm, in a nutshell.
Yep.
one thing to add would be that, and we'll have more about it next month, this meeting, but the idea also, because BPS has done so well, that we have the ability to move the Harold Martin office folks into their office. Now, that's all contingent on getting a certificate of occupancy from the town. We also don't want to open the floodgates up and have that entire building have people running around it, but we do think we can move the office folks over there, which allows us then to go into the office nursing station and make good progress on that. So you may see some limited occupancy of the new Harold Martin office area, and they're working with that. And of course, on the part of Turner, they have to go in and okay that everything's had a punch list and so forth, but we're working hard to be able to play that little do-si-do of moving people around.
And I guess if there's not a cost associated with it, I guess we discussed there's going to be some fencing up and stuff, so there's protection when we're demoing the science labs and stuff. Did we talk about that at the high school still? Is that still something, Barry, that's happening?
Are we talking about the dumpster area?
The dumpster area, yeah, we're going to put some
Yeah,
fences.
We're going
Okay.
to close that with fencing. We're going to put up temporary fencing and enclose it in no trespassing signs to try to eliminate the fine sport of dumpster diving.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Just so our community continues to be safe and know that that's really important to everyone here. Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions regarding the summer work? Any other questions regarding the project or anything else they'd like to discuss at this time? Awesome. So the next thing on the agenda is the financial report. So I'll turn over to Michelle for.
Sure. In the Google Drive is the April financial report that shows just over $4.4 million has been spent so far. Another important information for you all to know about is that I've given bond counsel all the information at this point that is needed, as well as the bond bank. Steve and I actually have a conference call tomorrow with our bond counsel to go through some of the items. So that is moving forward very well. And so we'll be on track for the final bond for August.
For August? Very cool. That's very exciting. Yeah, I looked at the financials and it's like, it's almost all used up. It's like, the numbers are shrinking and everything for what we have available. And it's kind of surreal that we're almost done this project. So thank you, Michelle. The report's great. Does anyone have any other questions on the financials?
I got a quick one, Norm. Michelle, have you heard anything about any additional funding? I just saw something today about FEMA money coming our way. Have you heard anything on that one?
So while I was on vacation, I did not get an email from the state, but I did get an email sent to me from Steve. Unfortunately, it's in a big pile of all kinds of stuff that I need to do, and it's not a priority right now. So at some point, it will become a priority. But again, it would have to be COVID related. So I believe, because that's why we're being able to have FEMA, but I honestly have a pile here like this that I have to read through related to the FEMA stuff.
Well, that serves you right for going on vacation.
Yeah.
Michelle,
No.
that's why I take half days. That's why I take half days, because if I
Yeah,
take a day
well-
off, it's 3 days of work for me.
I just, what we saw, and I know the schedule, the funding train's a little bit different, but there was a gap after the Gopher money expired for us in October that the city's been covering from, our operational budget, but we may be able to seek some reimbursement for that. So that will free up fund balance for us if that happens. So I just happened to see that today, so I'm starting to work on that.
Yeah, no, it's great. We have not spent anything district money on anything related to COVID. It has all been related to either SPSRF funds, grant funds. We had 1 and 2. We had ESSER 1 that we've already used the whole thing up. We're in the process now of using ESSER 2 money, as well as the board soon. Well, first the finance committee, then the board will be talking about use of ESSER 2. I have a meeting Thursday. I mean, this is why lots of people don't, it's never boring. And even if I wasn't on vacation, it would be this chaotic. ESSER 3 is coming out soon. And so I have a webinar this Thursday to learn about what is coming down the pipeline for ESSER 3. And then yet on top of it is FEMA. And it's a little sketchy in that the towns have been able to use state money, federal money for things that the school districts have not been able to use for. For example, revenue shortfall. I'd love to be able to use it for revenue shortfall. We do not have the green light to do it for the other grants, not FEMA, but just, you know what I mean? To just put it in perspective. Unfortunately, it's not black and white when you look at one entity to another. I wish it was, because it'd make it easier and it'd make it more transparent for everybody, because it's hard when a town can use things for something where a school can't be. But I appreciate that, Jay. Yeah, it is in the queue. My
Okay.
hope is that I can free up ESSER 2 money and free up ESSER 1 potentially and put it underneath. I mean, it's going to be lots of journal entries. It's going to be, but no district money. It's just what grant do I take it out of to then have more money in a grant. But again, the grants have all been related to COVID.
Okay, understood. I just wanted to draw your attention to that because I know you guys are offset though quite a bit differently than the municipalities are. But it takes some relief off of my budget that some of those expenses may now be reimbursable, which is good.
Absolutely.
Good question. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that. Next on our agenda is public comment. And there is only one public comment, and that is me. I just want to say, guys, this has been a great project. You guys are doing great. And it's just driving by the school, seeing everything all looking great, and then going inside. I just appreciate all the hard work everyone's doing here, from our leadership team to BPS, Gordon, and HL Turner. I'm very happy to see, and to Jay, and to Steve, and to everyone for making this project happen. It's just great to see it. We're getting closer and closer to the finish line. To Michelle and Gordon getting those numbers down and being open and transparent with the community. It's really great to see it. So I'm excited to see this to the finish line, and with all your support and patience and those Monday meetings that can go sometimes a little long. I definitely appreciate it. So thank you all for that support. So with that, I'm gonna tell you, Rob, in person, I had this down to 20 minutes, just saying, just give you a hard time over there. Now it's 5:19. Now, with that, if there's nothing else set forth for the building committee, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, and we will see you guys in June, and I'll see you guys on our weekly meeting on Monday. Thank you all for.
Norm, I don't know if you want to, I have some
Oh.
stuff to show you guys, but I don't
Oh.
know if you want to go out of public session.
Did you want to, is it for just the, is
It's
it just,
It's just signage and
yeah, we could, if did Rob go? Or he's still here? Okay, yeah, sure, go for
Exterior.
it.
Leave at 5:30, just so that, I mean, 5:30
Yeah.
is gonna push it, so.
Yeah, go for it. We have a couple more minutes. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see the signs.
So I sent all these to you guys maybe about an hour ago or a little less. So can you see that now? Everybody seeing that?
Yeah.
So this is a small sign for out at the street for Harold Martin School that I was thinking of, just a granite post with a steel surround and then a dual panel sign on it. And then Maple Street School was similar, but a larger sign. And I know the sign ordinance says that no illuminated signs, so we need to talk to them about that. But I didn't know if we can find an LED sign for Maple Street and for the high school that might be a low illumination letter on a black background, so it just looks like a gentle white light, so just enough to read it. And then on the high school, this is their existing monument and just replacing the panels. So we can redo the sign there. And this one, this is what the existing sign looks like there. So this is all the same, but we replace what's in the middle. What they'd really like to be able to do is be able to change the sign from the building, just because in the wintertime, it's just difficult to go out there and do the signage, and, you know, they'd be able to you know, make the sign changing more frequent then. So that's the general idea, but we'd have to go to zoning and talk to them about it.
Is that, Doug, is that something that's worked before in other towns that have had a similar?
Well, it says, I know you have illuminated signs in town, so I think it's just a matter of having a discussion with them, and maybe also talking to a sign company to see what the products are that are available out there for this kind of application. Because I can come up with a concept, but a sign company is going to know, you know, exactly all the different things that are available out there. I don't have that at my fingertips, so
Right.
I have to research it just like everybody else. So, but you know, this sign would not be illuminated other than, you know, a street light near it or something, and then this one as well. So we try to illuminate this portion. And then I don't know if you guys saw this last time. I think all this falls into the wishy category, but so these are standoff letters on the marquee of the Harold Martin building. Originally, we weren't putting any letters on there just because there was no signage on it originally, so we didn't include that, but we do have the ability to put standoff letters on here if you like, and probably suggest doing them in a color or something that makes it a little more fun. So, and I'm looking at your Harold Martin parking right now. I just did a quick look at it, and I have to compare it against the satellite image, but we might be able to squeeze another 20 spaces out of this area or something, just by actually redoing the spacing to make it to what typical parking standards are, because these aisles are a little wider than standards, and I believe the spaces are a little longer than standard. So, and that's just for you guys to look at. I can just do a quick sketch, and you can take a look at it and see if you want to try to do anything. So
That looks great, Doug. Thank you very much.
so that's it, real quick.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that. I like those signs. Those look really great. Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions for Doug? All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming today, and the meeting's adjourned until I see you guys next month. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug. Those are
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Take care.